What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Freddie and Alyssa Show. Today's episode is sponsored by CBD for Life. For those of you who are watching, look at this. Holding one right here in my hand. Those of you who are listening, I have a hand and body massage lotion from CBD for Life in my hand right now. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one specifically today is I've been rubbing this on my knees, on my feet, on my arms, on my shoulders for the past week. I've been doing a lot of yoga and running, and I absolutely love this stuff. The smell is like you're at a spa, and the healing properties of this product is great. And then do you want to say a couple of the things about this brand?
A couple really imperative things to know about CBD for Life is number one, the CBD is sourced from organically farmed hemp. There is no THC detected, and it is female founded and operated. Woo-woo.
Yes. And if you want to check out their website, you can order yourself some or for a friend for the holidays, and check out some more of their products. It's cbdforlife.us, cbdforlife.us. And they actually gave us a promo code for all of you. It's Freddie Alyssa 20 at checkout. Gives you 20% off your entire order. So go check them out at cbdforlife.us. Now enjoy the episode.
And I didn't know John back then. And I'm sitting there and nobody's coming up. So I'm going, how long am I going to be sitting here looking like an idiot? You know, there's a belly I'm talking about practically in front of me.
Yeah.
Is a belly dancer. I'm watching the belly dancer. And I'm sitting by myself. Everybody else, you've got a buffet, you've got a rock band, right? Going. So all of a sudden, one guy comes up and probably felt sorry for me. So he comes up and he's like probably in his 70s. And he says, do you mind if I have a reading? I said, no. And I said, have you ever had a reading before? And he goes, no. So I says, okay, well, nobody else is here, so sit down. I'll read you for as long as you need to be read. So I started, I said, you're a banker. I said, you're president of a bank, or were. And he said, yes. And I said, who's Susan? He went, oh my God, that's my daughter. And then I got Amy, and that was his wife. And then I got another name that was his other daughter. And I tuned into each daughter and his wife. And I was getting names. I knew exactly what he did as a profession.
Yeah.
I'd never seen this man before in my life. And I'm just going boom, 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 boom. And I'm reading him for like a whole half hour. And finally, he goes back to his table. And within a few minutes, I had a line with people standing in it, waiting for a reading. And I'm telling you, it was all the way. They would have somebody stand in line, go get their food, the buffet, and then come back with their food and eat it standing up. And the band was playing. And I was there 7 hours. Because the people toward the end, when it got to be 2 a.m, and I'm tired, and I had no break. So I started like at 6, and I went until like 2 a.m, or maybe 3, I can't remember. And it was awful. I mean, I learned for the first time to say enough, you know. But the people had been standing in line for hours, and they were going, you know, I'm going to stand in line for hours, and then you're not even going to read me. So I said 2 minutes. Set. Boom, boom. So I learned to read very quickly. So that's why I'm saying that a lot of people don't understand what goes into a medium or a psychic. They think, well, you know, they just either lay out the cards and do a reading, or with mediumship, it's a little bit harder because, you know, you're getting people who have passed over. And with me, I can do both, although I prefer prophecy. But most people don't realize how dangerous it is. You know, when you have somebody come into your home and you don't know this person from Adam, and then now especially with the internet, you're taking a chance, you know? So the other thing is the fact that I've worked so much crime and homicide and serial killers over the years, it educates you.
Right.
And it tunes you in. If I start reading somebody over the phone and I'm not feeling good about it, full refund. I'm not going to read you. Or I'm not going to let you in my home. I'm not going to have you in my home. I'll do maybe a phone reading, but I won't have you in my home. So that's why I'm saying that people don't realize what chances some of these people take. And, you know, especially having done homicide. And John and I started doing homicide. I started out about 1983. John and I started out in 1996 when we met. And we can tell you some crazy stuff about that. We don't have time today. But, you know, there's just a lot of stuff that goes into this work. I don't get paid for doing crime. John doesn't get paid for doing crime. We don't get paid to do a missing child or a missing person unless it's a private family. If the police or FBI call me, then there's no charge. And they work with us.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few that started out actually going out into a victim's home and picking up energy, or going up in this the Angeles Crest Highway mountains with 8 or 9 homicide detectives looking for a body. I didn't just do it all from my living room. I would actually fly, and John and I later on would fly to Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, or fly to somewhere in Chicago. We went to the Philippines, Manila, and found 3 kids, and happened to be on Mother's Day we found them. So in Canada, I found somebody from my living room in 1993 over a 3-day period. I had not met John at that time, but he was in Lake Ontario. And Lake Ontario, for those that aren't familiar, goes from the United States to Canada. That's how big it is.
Wow.
And I found the exact spot where this guy was under.
How does that
How
work?
many feet deep is Ontario?
Well, at that point, I don't know, but it's very deep.
20, 30, 40,
oh,
50,
it's much,
100
much more than that.
feet?
I think it's some spots about 200.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on where you're at, yeah.
I knew exactly where he was.
That was
I
off
told the
pier.
Canadian Mounted Police to go about a mile. I won't get too much specifics because it's a private party. But the Canadian Mounted Police contacted me to do this. And I was living here in LA. And it took me 3 days. And I taped the whole thing. I dated it and taped it. And I got the guy's name that set this young man up. He was only 24. And there were drugs being sent from Vietnam into some mattresses. And I told the Canadian Mounted Police, I said, have your divers go 1 mile to a beach area. And I said, there's a pier from the mattress factory. And I said, have them walk straight down the pier and jump it. And you'll find him. And I said, he'll be shot once in the side of the head, bound and gagged. And I said that you'll find a white Esprit. Well, who ever heard of an Esprit? I didn't. And this is in 1993. I never heard of Esprit. I just knew it was an Esprit. I even got the license number, 4 digits of the license number.
Amazing.
Anyway,
Gosh.
they found him. And then I told on tape, at that time we didn't have internet and we didn't have iPhones,
Right.
for those of you who don't remember.
Can't even.
I said there's going to be another murder. And I told him how the murder happened. And I said, don't use my name. Do not do any publicity. I said, you're going to find him. But do not use my name because this is drug related. And I'm a target. So I saw where they were dropping the drugs from an airplane. I mean, I got so much detail from this one murder. And then I told him the name of the kid's best friend to set him up for the murder because he was making money off the drugs and he didn't want them being caught. And then I said, there's going to be another murder. And I told him exactly how it was going to happen with a gasoline truck. What do they call those?
Yeah, it was the gasoline.
Where
the
they
tanker.
pull in the tanker and they pull in, fill up.
Yeah.
I said it's going to be on a real desolate road in Canada. There are 3 people in a tanker that are right behind him and slowly pushing him off of a cliff. And he's going to be gone within 3 days. That's what happened. So that's why I'm saying we don't know why we get this kind of information.
Right.
We don't know why, what the purpose is, because I can't always tune into every single murder and be correct.
Right.
I can't always find every missing child or every missing animal. But I have found a lot of animals. I have found for celebrities and for people that are like me, normal people, us.
Right.
And I have found children and people. Not always a happy occasion,
Sure, of course.
you know. But it's grueling. You know, it's grueling work. It's not many people understand what goes with it, because sometimes I get up at, I lay down at 2 in the morning, and then I get up, and then I have to write down what I saw. So that means put on my glasses or contacts,
Right.
turn on a light, sit down, write down, turn off, go back, and then see what I see, write it down again. And then, you know, this goes on all night for several nights. So people think that I just worked the crime end of it maybe once a month. I mean, how about every day? I had famous cases, like I was mentioning before, the Hillside Strangler, and there were many others. I don't want to mention them all, but, you know, the people that can do this usually are very good at it, and they usually don't charge. Some might. You know, I just felt that it was something that I could do and that I should do and not charge unless it's private. Then that's a whole different story. Otherwise, I'd be bombarded with cases 10 million times a day, and I'd be sitting there all day not making money, paying my bills.
Right,
you know.
right.
We have to live, right?
Of course.
So, you know.
So what's both of your relationships things? I know you're talking about being religious earlier,
Right.
and how has being able to have this insight and this, would you consider it like power, insight, a gift of like, how do you define?
I feel that everybody has some kind of psychic ability or intuition. But like, there are artists, there's musicians, there's famous surgeons, or, you know, everybody has a gift of some kind that they're born with. I really believe that. I am religious. I'm very much into the Virgin Mary. But that has nothing to do with metaphysics. I feel that I also believe that all the religions are basically the same. I believe in our ancient alien ancestors. You know, so people will say, well, you believe in aliens that are our ancestors. How can you believe in Virgin Mary? Or how can you believe that... Look, I've read the Quran, I've read the Bible, I've gotten into the history of ancient religions. I've studied the Homo sapien and Neanderthal and Denison and so on and so forth, as much as John has. And I deal with the ancestors. I want to know, who are we? Where have we been? Where did we come from? How did we end up here? Where are we going? What's our purpose? You know, and I really believe our purpose really is spirituality. I do believe that we're supposed to come together and blend and make some kind of peace between the ethereal and the physical. So our guides, I know we have guides. I mean, there's no question.
Right.
And in the beginning, when I first started out, I have a very hard time believing, first of all, that I was psychic. I used to do nails. Acrylic nails.
Okay.
And you'd come in as a client. I'd be reading you while I'm doing your nails.
Oh.
Or I used to do pedicures.
Yeah.
I'd be doing your foot.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling your foot and I'm reading you, right?
Wow.
So, but to me it was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It did give me a good clientele, although I did very good nails. But, you know, after I quit, I couldn't make any more money because at the time the Vietnam War was ending, and a lot of the Vietnamese shops were opening up, the nail shops in California, and I couldn't compete. So I lost my shop. So I had right away, immediate clients, Cheri, I'll come to your house. You can do my nails, and I want a reading. I want to pay you. I go, I can't take money for this. So I started out at $25 an hour for a reading. And I never even
from there.
I was unlisted. I was swamped 7 days a week. So, you know, that's why I'm saying the word gets out.
Right.
to somebody who's real and somebody who's not. And I teach. John teaches. You know, John does numerology, astrology, Reiki. I don't care about doing Reiki so much, but we do that together.
Well, and I was asking him earlier, because you guys are known as like the psychic couple.
Right.
And I was asking him, do you guys ever read each other? But he was saying, so what was the story that...
Well, talking about the time in Brentwood.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time that I was going to read them, and this is back in 1996 or 1997.
This is 96.
We were living in Brentwood at the time, and I thought, you know, if I'm going to read you, let's get it over with and let's do it. Otherwise, once I get to know you, I'm not going to, like, do this. You know?
Right.
And John and I had been business partners, and we had not really gotten into anything romantic, thought about anything romantic, I think, at that time. You know, we were still getting to know each other. We were traveling, you know, to do homicide and stuff like that. But it was all business. So, but we were getting to be very good friends.
Right.
And I trusted John, totally. And I don't trust a lot of people, especially men, when it comes to dating. I mean, nothing against men. It's just that I didn't have a great track record with relationships, if you know what I'm talking about. So I kind of thought, you know, I've got my son, I've got my dogs, I've got my house, I've got my kids. At the time, I had my sister. So I thought, okay, I have enough on my hands. But John loves to cook. In fact, he should have had a restaurant. And he said, let me cook. So we're going to barbecue some prime rib and whatever. So I, you know, being a Cancerian, I like the ambiance. I like the music, and, you know, it was beautiful out, and we're by the pool, and, you know, and I set the table, and it was all good. So all of a sudden, I said, let me read you. And the music's playing. And I'm talking about really mellow, romantic Italian, you know, music. And all of a sudden, I started to close my eyes. John had his eyes closed. And all of a sudden, tears were streaming down my face. And I mean, they kept coming. I couldn't stop crying. I wasn't hysterical or anything. They were silent tears. I was just, you know, they kept coming. And I'm going, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, I saw two lights. One was coming from the right to the middle, and the other was coming from the left to the middle, and they met. And the only way I can explain it is the feeling, and what I saw was two souls merging. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. Never has anything happened to me like that before, and never probably will happen again. When I opened my eyes, John had tears down his cheeks. And he had his eyes closed. And I went, oh my God. I said, John.
Wow. It was.
What happened? He said, Cheri, I don't know. But something did. And then, you know, it was weird. There was a crow I was like sitting here and John sitting like there. And there was a
It was kind of like a wrought
trash
iron railing.
can or whatever it was, a railing or something.
There was a railing behind
And the crow landed there. And birds are messengers. I'm not particularly fond of crows.
Me either.
But, you know, I'd rather be a blue jay or something, bluebird. But anyway, dove. But anyway, the crow was there, and I looked over at the crow, and all of a sudden it looked and it flew away. Well, years later, John was the one that I kept telling him he had to write our book. And I said, you need to write the book about my great aunt's death. She was murdered in upstate New York. And I said in 1935, and she was pretty much decapitated. And I said, I always wanted to write a book about her story because I believe that I'm the reincarnation of her. And that's why I came back into this lifetime to do homicide, serial killers, and crime. Because why else am I doing this? I mean, it's not like I wanted to be a detective.
Wow.
It's not like I wanted to be in, you know, the criminal field. I was just able to do this, and I gained a name like overnight.
Wow.
I mean, I was known all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was just doing it, you know. But I made a deal with the guides. I said, if I do this, you have to protect me because I'm a single mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you also have to warn me if I'm in danger or my son. And the other thing, I said, I want corporations and I want the creme de la creme. And I want to see names. I want to see dates. I want to see this. I want to see that. And that's what they gave me.
Wow.
In turn. And back then, I didn't believe in all this stuff. I mean, I was brought up very religious. And it was like a no-no to do anything to tune in. And I had a hard time with it. I had a hard time that I had spirit guides. Number one, it was spooky. And number two, you know, I'm seeing murders and kidnappings. I would see kidnappings 6 months to a year before it would happen. And then, you know, all of a sudden, after 6 months or a year, I got the client sitting in my living room. Or the police on the phone asking me to come to a certain state or city or whatever to work on a case. And I go, God, I just saw that. So then I thought, God, what did I see now? I have to go back in time to remember what I saw. And I went, oh my God, my guides are showing me crimes 6 months to a year ahead of time. I got to start writing this stuff down. And today I have every case that I've ever worked on documented. And I'm documented. You know, I mean, I have found people and I am documented. I've been investigated, you name it. They
really? I was going to ask
when you do a lot of television and radio and write-ups, you know, they do. They investigative reporters check you out, which is fine. I don't care, you know. But I never cared about the fame because I passed up a lot of stuff along the years. I mean, I could have been making millions and I turned it down because that's not what I feel my purpose is. I feel my purpose is to help people. And I love teaching. Well, John just happened to walk in my life and he's into metaphysics. And what he does, I don't do.
And vice versa.
And vice versa, but then we do our thing together. So it's the way of the world or the way of the universe, you know.
What's both of your relationships with time? If you're seeing stuff in the future or you're seeing something that could or will happen,
right?
Then how do you interpret that? Is that going to happen regardless, or we still have the free will to change that, or is this already been played out and it's all going to be is this already in stone?
Both. Both. Because when I do crime, the biggest thing that I had a problem with was I see dead people sometimes is if they're living. For instance, there was a case upstate New York, and it was a little girl that looked just like JonBenet Ramsey. She was blonde, she was adorable, she was 4 years old, and she was kidnapped. Well, I won't go through the whole thing, but this is the one I ended up doing the Lisa show on. And in fact, they're the ones that asked me to go. And so I would tune into her at like 2 or 3 in the morning, which is my time with my guys to tune in. And I see like watching TV. I'm seeing emotion, like watching television and in color. And they showed me her playing on the swings in front of her apartment complex. And they showed me her little bike or tricycle there. She was only 3 or 4 years old. And I thought, oh, okay, she's alive. Now, this is when I'm working on the case, and she's disappeared. So the question is to the parents, to the mother in this case, single mother, is she alive? Where is she? So I knew at that point that I'm saying, okay, they're showing me her alive, playing in a playground on the swings, and that's her tricycle, which was disappeared as well as her. So when I flew back east to work on it with the homicide detectives, I said, the guy Joe, there's a guy Joe. And he goes, yeah, what about him? I go, well, thank you for telling me I'm right about getting some guy's named Joe that's a maintenance man. I didn't know that, but thank you. But he's going, yeah, well, what about him? I mean, it's like, oh, okay.
Real jerks.
Yeah.
I got the color of the truck, pickup truck. I got, again, part of a license plate number. And I said, it's a maintenance man, Joe, that kidnapped her and killed her. Well, before that, because I saw her playing in the yard, I thought she was alive. So I'm telling the mother she's still alive.
Shoot.
Well, I didn't realize until later that what someone does that is able to do is when they pass over, they can show you things that happened when they were alive. And it's for me, it's like watching television. So I went, oh my God, okay, how am I ever going to determine someone's dead or someone's alive?
Right.
So, which is a whole nother story. But you learn from each case. You learn what is consistent. Mm-hmm. You have different guides to show you different things. I never see the same thing, the same symbols or anything for people, except a tree and an ice cream cone and stuff like that. You know? Yeah. But the interesting thing is that working with homicide or serial killers or missing children or people or pets, a pet could be here, at 2 a.m, which is the time to tune in, or it's running all over the neighborhood in the afternoon. So it depends. I have to pick out the time of day that the pet left. It was never seen again, the area. I have to determine, I have to take out sometimes a map. Well, I had to learn how to read maps because I didn't know how to read a map. So back in the 80s, I had to learn how to read a map. I'm trying to get my 13-year-old son to teach me how to read a map. And because the guides would show me maps. Yeah. And they would point here. And I'm going, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. There's a lot of stuff that, when John and I worked a case in Moline, Illinois in 1996, I was seeing the Oscar Mayer Wiener, building, and we won't get into the story.
That was a gruesome one.
But anyway, John's helping me do the interpretation. He's going, Cheri, how about Oscar Mayer building? Because I would see bologna stacked up in front of the victim.
Sliced bologna. And I went,
I'm seeing all this bologna on a table with the little girl who was missing. Oh my. And I said, John, what do you think that is? And he said, how about Oscar Mayer?
The meat packing plant.
Well, when we went there, the meat packing company happened to have been within a 5-minute radius of where she was missing. So it was like crazy.
That was a crazy
you find all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm surprised nobody's ever done a real TV show. Not one that's scripted, because I will not be scripted. That's why I don't want to do more television, because they want me to script. I'm not being scripted. Yeah. Either you take what I see, what I say, when I see it, when I say it, or I'm out of there. You can't script somebody like me. Yeah. I mean, you can if they're phony. Right. But I'm not doing it. I will always be authentic.
To answer your question, though, about timing and things like that, and can things be changed? When I read tarot, the first thing I tell people is, more than likely, this is what will happen if you do nothing. But sometimes it is inevitable. I think Cheri talked about a 9. I think there's a 9 with you, one of you too. That's about drastic endings. 9s are usually unavoidable. In numerology, it means the end of a cycle. Numerology is 1 through 9, and then begin again. And you break everything down to those numbers. There's 3 that are exceptions, master numbers. But, when we hit a 9, usually it's what do we call that? It's inevitable change that we cannot avoid. And when we do avoid it, it gets worse and worse. And then when we finally give in, we go, that's it? I thought it was going to be much worse than this, but we make it worse by avoiding it.
Gotcha.
But you can change some things, but there are some things that are written in stone and they will not change. Yeah. It's very difficult
going to pass over,
to determine that.
You can sometimes change it. If the guides are showing you something, warning you, that's why I tell people, pay attention to your dreams. Yeah. Because sometimes they warn you and people fluff it off. Well, maybe they're saying, you're going to be in this car, maybe your car, and another car hits you. And then if it ends quickly, that means that I learned that if the vision ends without a conclusion, then that means that you have the ability to change it. There is no ending. It hasn't been decided yet. Because you didn't decide yet, are you going to get in the car that day? Or are you not going to get in the car? So, you know, I had a thing happen to me. To give you an example, I had something where I was living in Woodland Hills at one point, and I was doing a lot of work with the police at this point. And a lot of it was California murders and stuff like that. This was 1986. And the guy had showed me a vision. I won't go through all of it. But they showed me in my own car, parked. Okay, here's the street, right? Here's my house over here. My car was going to the right. Well, to park illegally, it should have been parked in front of my house going toward the left. Do you see what I'm saying? But it was parked in the opposite way. But then they showed me sitting behind the wheel of the car. And then I saw a body bag coming out of my house with 2 German Shepherds and 2 plainclothes detectives. And I saw the door open when I'm watching the vision. And I thought, oh my God, my son is dead. And then I looked, because the body bag, I didn't know who was in it. Then I looked again, I went, oh my God, it's not my son, it's me. So then,
I know.
I was working on a really hairy case. I mean, you know, that I won't go into, but it was in the valley. It was in the valley at the time. The murders lived about 5 minutes from me. So anyway, when I saw that vision, I went, oh my God. Well, the next day, I took my 2-year-old car. I went down to Toyota. I had a Nissan at the time, a silver Nissan. I went down to Toyota, Universal City Toyota. Hope you appreciate me giving you some publicity here. And I traded it in the next day for a red GT Celica, Toyota Celica. And I drove out with a red car because I figured, number one, the vision, I was sitting in my car at the present. So number one, I was going to get rid of the car. So if I don't have the car that I owned, I can't, it's not going to happen, right? So then I wasn't too sure. So I called up my landlady, who I was renting from, and I said, Kathy, I'm out of here. She goes, Cheri, why? What? Because she loved me. I mean, she wanted me to buy the house. But I wouldn't buy a house because if I had to move overnight, which I've had to do several times, then if you're the realtor, you're showing my house, they can see where my bedroom is, they can see where the alley is, they can see where the windows are, what kind of windows, what kind of locks. I'm a sitting duck. So I always rented. I would never purchase, so that I was not bound to be a victim. So what happened was I called her up. I said, I'm out of here. And I had just previously seen the 6.6 earthquake in the valley anyway. And I was in Woodland Hills. And my guide showed me the tree behind my house falling over into my living room. So I knew we were going to be dead anyway, my son and I, if I didn't move. So I had 2 reasons to move. So I didn't move to the Pacific Palisades. And at the time, I was not listed. And there was no internet, like I said, no iPhones. So in order to get in touch with me, you had to know somebody that knew me. Personal referral. And the earthquake happened, and the murders were, there's a lot more to it, but the murder never happened. I changed it. I changed my residence, and I changed my car. I probably really didn't have to change my car, but after that,
I wouldn't take any chances.
I was freaked out.
Get that right.
I mean, I couldn't even sit in there. It was bad enough I had to drive it down to Universal, to get a new car. So, there's weird things that happen that we can't explain. I don't even ask why or how anymore. I just go with it. It's just, it's weird.
Well, can I ask you too, because you were talking about karmic lives earlier. So what exactly is your take on that? And how, do you have an idea of how many lives we live or why we do, or?
Well, I personally do not like to do past life readings. And I'll tell you why. You can't prove it. I like things you can prove. But the other thing is that what I tell clients, if they go, well, I want a past life reading, I go, well, then go to a past life regressionist because I'm not doing it. You know, and they go, well, yeah, you know, you mentioned past life to my girlfriend when you did a reading where she was in a, so why can't you do it with me? And I go, well, that's a good question. I'll tell you why. Because number one, I don't want to do it. But number two, if I'm doing a reading, I allow my guides to show me whatever.
Sure.
And if they show me something that's crucial to the person that I'm reading at that moment, that was in a prior lifetime that's affecting them in this lifetime, and the guides bring it up, then absolutely I go with it. Absolutely. I want to mention it. Because people don't realize when you do a reading, you're not just talking about, you know, danger or somebody's going to fall in love with somebody or how many kids they're going to have or how many dogs or cats they're going to have. But you're also talking and you're working with somebody on an emotional level. So it's a big responsibility to predict. And emotionally, I have to think to myself silently while I'm reading somebody that I just met for the first time. Should I tell them about this? Is it going to hurt them by my telling them? Is it going to help them? Are they going to be freaked out? Are they going to be able to leave my house and drive home okay? If I tell them, well, you're going to get in a car accident, you know, you better wear your seatbelt. Right. Well, they could be driving home and going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So then, in their mind, did Cheri help cause it because she put the suggestion of it?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of liability in doing readings. Not just emotionally, but legally. Yeah. Like, you know, we're not allowed to prophesize health, you know. But, and I'll leave that subject alone. But the problem is that people don't realize how much goes into a medium doing a reading. I'm talking about somebody authentic. I'm not talking about somebody going, okay, next. Right. You know, usually you can tell who's phony and who's real right away. So, you know, it depends on what the situation is. Yeah. If I have a situation that I'm working with somebody who's suicidal, you know, it's not up to me to become a psychiatrist. Right. I'm not going to sit there and help this person go off or trigger. You know, so you have to be careful because I've gotten people a lot of times over all the years I've been doing this. I don't want to live if he's not going to come back. He's my soulmate. I love him. You know, and I go, but he's abusing you. I know. But I love him. Oh, I hate you know, that. I mean, there's a lot of things you want to go whack, whack, whack to the person you're reading. Yeah. Wake up. This guy isn't, or this girl's not good for you, you know.
Can I add something about the karma, though? Yeah. I do Karmic Astrology.
Oh, yeah. That's
a different story. Now, that doesn't tell you how many times you have reincarnated, but it does talk about the important lifetimes. Usually it's the prior lifetime, and we talk about, and the person has the issues because there's something called karmic bleed through, and we don't even know it. It's like people with phobias. Why are you afraid of spiders? You know, why are you afraid of, you see what I'm saying? Right.
Maybe I can't touch cotton balls. I cannot.
Exactly, but why? There you go.
Maybe you were smothered with a cotton ball.
Maybe you know what? Think about it though. Maybe you were a slave in the South.
That's what I've told him.
And picked cotton until your fingers bled.
I know.
Right? And it bleeds through. But what we always try to tell people is, it's not real. It's not real, and you don't have to do this.
Right.
You don't have to do this. And sometimes it can be very freeing. Somebody goes, oh, well, this was from a prior lifetime and this doesn't apply to me now? No, it doesn't. You'd be amazed. I love doing Karmic Astrology.
John's really good. It's very accurate. One thing I wanted to say, John, is that with karma, that my first second book that John ended up writing, I told him, I said, you're the one to write the book. I've never written a book in my life. I don't know how. Let me tell you, he did a great job. But anyway.
I want to check it out.
Oh, we'll give you copies.
Yeah,
Oh, cool. I would
will
love
give you
that.
copies. But here's the whole thing with karma, is that in your dreams, if you have reoccurring dreams, what it's a carryover, I feel, from a prior lifetime. And once you confront that issue and that dream, they'll stop. You know, like I had one woman, for instance, she goes, Cheri, I really need to know about this reoccurring dream. Well, I love dreams. I mean, John and
Yeah,
I,
we love to do
Yeah.
we should have written a
interpretation.
dream book a long time ago
Probably.
on symbology. But she said, I keep having a dream that I'm on the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. And all of a sudden, my car goes off and into the water, and I'm killed. And I said, describe the car, describe who's in the car, describe blah, blah, blah. Well, come to find out, she had an aunt that had died in a car on the Golden Gate Bridge, like around 1935 or 1938.
Oh.
And she was picking up that instance, and the woman was killed. But I said, have you ever driven yourself across the Golden Gate Bridge? She goes, yeah, many times. I said, do you ever freak out? She goes, yeah, I do. Every time I go across the bridge, I freak out. And she said, I almost can't go across the bridge at all. So what ended up happening was I told her, I said, you were your aunt in a prior lifetime. You were the one that was killed. And you're reliving it. And this is what happened with me, with my great aunt that was murdered in 1935. I always wonder, why am I doing crime? I mean, like, this is like something that if you had told me this, I would say, you're crazy.
Wow.
You're nuts. You know, I was working for James Brown's record company, and I was doing TV commercials. I mean, what do I need to do all this stuff for? So it wasn't about money. I always made money. But the guides were gearing me in a certain path.
Yeah.
And my son, when he was 4, was in California, and he was at the babysitters. And my ex-boyfriend at that time, and my son's now 45, that's how many years ago it was. He was at the babysitters. It was on my birthday in the summertime. And I was at a restaurant, I won't mention the name, on the PCH. We were having, the lobster was coming, the champagne was coming. It was my birthday. Well, my ex-boyfriend was a criminal attorney here in LA. And he was going to propose to me that day. And I didn't know it. There was a ring, a diamond ring, in the champagne. Well, my sister was with me. And there was him, myself, and my sister. All of a sudden, as a happy birthday's being sung, and this is like 8:30 at night, but in the summer, my birthday's in July, it didn't get dark till 9 or 9:30 at night. So it's still light out. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, as the lobster's coming, the champagne, the waiters are carrying everything, and they're singing happy birthday, I got a quarter out of my purse, silently, without saying a word to anybody, and went to the payphone, because again, no iPhones back then, or internet. And I put a quarter in, and I rang the babysitter in Northridge, and I said, Norma, do not hang up this phone. Get my son out of the front yard now. Do not ask any questions. Do not argue with me. Do not say anything. Do not hang up. Go. And I'm like screaming at her. I said, go now. And she goes, but Cheri, I said, go. And I'm like waiting on the other from the restaurant. Yeah. This seemed like an hour, which was only a few minutes. And she comes back and she says, Cheri, I think that you better come here and get your son. We never did have the lobster. I never did the ring. I never got the champagne. Wow. David paid the bill. And he put he had a 450 SL at the time, little convertible. And he put on the, like a white handkerchief. Yeah. And he's going through red lights down PCH. And I'm going, what are you doing? And his top's down. My hair is blown all over the place. I'm going, David, what are you doing? And he goes, if you ever are in an emergency, you just put a little white whatever on your antenna, and the cops will end up following you, and they will give you, and I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever. We got there in like Northridge in 20 minutes. That's how fast we were going. When we got there, my son was inside, and Norma, who was like a grandmother and had watched my son for, a few months, and she told me that when she went out to get him, he had his one foot and his head under the car, and there was a man standing right next to him, and there was another man behind the wheel, and there was a woman with blonde hair that was standing on the passenger side. All the doors were open. It was a 4-door. And all the man, as she's going, my son's name I'm not going to say, but, she's screaming his name. And today my son says it was like slow motion, to where he had his head under the car, the top of the car, and his one foot in. All the guys standing next to him had to do is shove him in and jump in, and they all take off and get away with my 3 to 4-year-old son. But he turned around and he ran into the house, and the man let him go. Well, it didn't dawn on me at that time, because I wasn't doing homicide or missing kids at the time. Yeah. I was seeing murders and I was seeing kidnappings, but it didn't ring a bell. Right after that, I thought, oh my God, I was teaching a class in my home, like within a 6-month period. And I was telling them the story, and all of a sudden, it went, oh my God, and they're going, what? I said, my guides never meant for my son to be kidnapped. It was a wake-up call for Cheri, get off your butt and do something, because you have the gift to help. And this is what you're supposed to do.
Wow.
And I went, wow. And that changed the course of my life forever. And that changed my destiny. And from that day on, I had a name immediately for police work. Anybody all over the country and the world would say, call Cheri Mancuso. Wow. So I was always busy. I wasn't just doing it once a month. I was doing it every day. Sometimes the detectives would pick me up in my home at 9 in the morning after my son went to school. I said, well, I have to be home by 3. So I would go all day long.
Wow.
And then work in the evenings to make money.
That's crazy. They didn't compensate you for that work.
I had offers from, but the departments don't make that much money.
I know.
In one department in Moline, Illinois, the detective, after John and I went there, he said, Cheri, should I get a cadaver dog? And now I'm back in LA, right? He phone call. And I go, for what purpose? And he said, because we want to see if the dog picks up that the little girl died in the spot in the house where you said she would be, they didn't know about DNA back then.
Wow, that's crazy too.
And I said, yeah, of course, get the cadaver dog. He goes, Cheri, it costs our department $30,000 for an hour.
Unbelievable.
To have a cadaver dog go in there.
Oh, wow.
And I said, are you kidding me? He said, no. And he said, Cheri, we're a tiny town. We don't really have the money. But if you tell me to go for it, I'm going to go for it. And he said, I'm just telling you that we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So I said, do it. Go for it. So they did. And then what came back was that, yes, the dog went straight to the exact area. Because John and I had flown there. I showed
that was the one I told you I ended up doing the videotape of because the producer went.
I told the
police.
I said she died right here in the living room. Her body dropped right there, and that's exactly where the cadaver dog went. And
they sense it when you die. There's like a pheromone that you release or something, and it can linger for up to 20 years in a carpet.
Yep.
Is that amazing?
You can change
Isn't
the
that
carpet.
Amazing?
You can change.
Wow.
You can paint.
Yeah.
You can change the flooring. Doesn't matter.
And
it's like DNA. That's what I tune into when I pick up, somebody's handwriting.
Yeah.
It's your DNA. And I don't see it, but, you know, and a dog senses it and picks it up. So having worked with cadaver dogs, and I've worked with forensics, you know, where they flew somebody in $30,000, they paid her. They flew her from San Diego by helicopter into Van Nuys Airport. Then the police escort took her up into the Angeles Crest Highway to work with me to find a body. I don't get paid anything. The detectives are up there with beer. There's like 8 of them. They got beer. They're drinking beer. I have pictures. I have video of it. They're, you know, I'm there with a shovel, you know, and my bare feet, and I'm asking, do you have a Coke? I have water. Yeah, they're drinking beer and laughing and having a great old time. While the forensic and I, there's a woman, are looking for this body. And she's teaching me as she goes along. She goes, Cheri, you know what to look for when a dead body and blah, 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 and a squirrel or a this, and this is why. And her and I were really into it. And the homicide detectives were getting drunk, you know. But I needed them to have like a Geiger counter or something. Because I knew that the husband...
The ground penetrating radar then either.
Yeah,
so.
The husband had killed his wife with a
Poker.
A fireplace poker, which was metal, and it was missing. So I knew it was buried with her. So if I I said, does anybody have an idea to bring a Geiger counter? Well, our department doesn't have one of those. Oh, well, I'm just supposed to spend all my day in Angeles Crest Highway with bears around and rattlesnakes, and it's in the middle of summer, and there's flies and mosquitoes, and it's hot, and I can't stand the heat. You know, so, you know, some of it turns out to be very interesting. The only reason I have actual footage is because I had just bought a high 8mm, which was the thing at the time.
Yeah.
And my son, who was like, I don't know, 17 at the time, he was with me, and I said, photograph everything. You know, and he's got footage of everything. So, you know, but it's interesting. It just is a weird world that we live in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just a weird world that we live in.
It is.
So,
I appreciate all your insight.
Yes.
Like I feel like I could talk to you. I know we have to go, but I could talk to you for hours. I was like,
I know.
I'd love to have you back on and do like
we'd love
and
to
like
come
follow up on some of the readings as well, because we're always changing and growing, and it's just kind of nice to know, you know, at what point are you feeling a gut feeling of like this is right, or are you letting fear or doubt stop? You know, it's kind of nice to kind of have some insight.
Yeah, those are good questions. You guys are asking great questions. And these are things that most mediums or psychics never talk about. Well, there aren't that many that are authentic, that really do crime or missing people or whatever. So at the time in the 80s, there were 6 of us in the world that did it, and I was one of the 6. So, you know, and since then a couple have died.
Yeah.
Passed over. But, yeah, we would love to come back.
Yes.
You know, I think it's great that you guys are doing this kind of thing, because spirituality is something that's really misunderstood. Psychic and past lives and all that stuff. 3/4 of the world believe in reincarnation. You know, we're the only country that is just starting to accept it. You know, but it hasn't always been accepted in this country. In all the other countries, it's, you know, it's history. You know, they've been practicing it for thousands of years, so it's no big deal. But our country has always had a problem with it. So I think it's good. You know, and the millennials coming up are really into spirituality. They're really into psychic stuff. And next time we come, we'll bring you my psychic card deck, even though I don't do cards.
Ooh.
I have the first psychic card deck in the world outside of tarot. And my guide showed me what to put together. And I wish I had known John at the time, because John knows cards. And John's really accurate. He does tarot. He's very accurate with tarot. So I do believe in tarot. But the person also has to have some psychic ability to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, so we'd love to come back.
Yeah, thank
Thank you for everything,
And-
truly.
And then I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you're like booked or if you want to share with our audience your info. If you want to let them know they can
Sure.
find you, or is that something you want to?
Yeah, they can go up on my website at Cheri, Cheri Mancuso, MANCUSO.com.
Okay.
And John's
And
right
mine
on
is
there.
John Scarano, JohnScarano.com.
Perfect.
Just
And
our
he's
names.
on my website, and I'm on
Yeah.
his, so
Yeah.
they can see
Perfect.
his picture and
Yeah,
click on
they
it.
can travel back and forth
Great.
between the two.
Okay.
And you do phone
I do
sessions too?
phone, but I also do in person.
Of course.
Perfect.
And we teach.
I can't do phone. I have to have you on
to see it?
Skype. I have to have you on
Okay.
Skype.
Okay.
I got to
Oh,
see
great,
you or
yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know
I
why.
hate using Skype.
She hates it.
I look so terrible. I go, oh my God.
Like, let's just do the
It's
phone.
like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
do this.
Yeah,
Let's...
We have to get out of our pajamas for that one.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
so
okay,
great.
well, it was
Oh,
great
perfect.
meeting you guys.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
both so much, and
Thank
for
you.
everyone
You're very
watching,
welcome.
thank you so much, and we'll be back with another episode very soon.